Welcome to the Ultra Origin series, where we hear from runners who have recently finished their first ultra or completed a new distance. In these conversations, we celebrate regular people who are doing hard things. I think there's a lot we can learn from and be inspired by from people just like you. In this episode, we speak with Chris Davis, who at age 56 ran his first 50-miler this summer, but after having run many marathons and even a few 50Ks over his long running career. I really enjoyed listening to Chris recount his history of running, and his love and enthusiasm for the sport was really fun to listen to. That's the sign that you know that you're getting serious about your running when you're running 5 days a week.
Right. Well, it's funny because, I've been running since 1985. And so I spent, the first 25 years running before I did an ultra. And, I used to be like what I would call a serious marathoner, 6 days a week, 50, 60 plus miles a week, just really focused on speed, pace, and so I did that for a long time. And I still love running marathons. They're a lot of fun, right? But man, the trails are where it's at. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you came to that realization, came to your senses, as you might say.
Well, where I grew up, we had like dirt roads and orchards, and that's where I grew up and learned to run, was back there off-road, basically. And I've always, sought out like that little bit of trail, no matter where I lived, I could find a little trail here, a little trail there. And yeah, it's just so much fun. I don't have to tell you.
Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about that history of yours,
Sure.
Doing marathons, and a little bit about how you got into running, and then eventually we can talk a little bit about how you got into this latest adventure.
Sure, yeah. So like I said, I started running in 1985, so I was like a junior in high school. We were raised out in the country. We were free-range kids, so just always growing up playing in the woods, played every sport there was, none of it organized. So hence I wasn't really skilled or good at anything, but we just always outside, always active. My dad, he started running like later in life, and he was a runner. So I'm like, yeah, I want to give this a try too, So I went out for cross country. My senior year there was very ordinary. You know what I mean? I was sixth man, as we know in cross country. That's the person that doesn't score. And then, it was really fun, and I got really into it. And the best thing was I met a great friend, and he and I were like running nerds in 1985, of course, right? So we had Runner's World, and I think the Running Times was out then, and books. And we would just make our own training plans and, do all these crazy workouts, and just loved running and everything about it without social media to help us, right?
Yeah,
so it was really cool.
Yeah.
So went to track in the spring, did okay, learned that a lot of training is really helpful. You can do better, right? Mm-hmm. So that was cool. Graduated from high school, went to college. So I'm born and raised in Pennsylvania, went to Penn State, and college is so good, right? You get there and you start learning to adult, and you're on your own. So, so many new things. Running takes a smaller and smaller piece, right? But it's still there, but it's very casual and fun. Kept racing a little bit here and there, but undergrad was pretty challenging too, and got into some bad habits of it was a pretty challenging major, so just working way too much, like all work and no play. That's never a recipe for anything good, right? So, but hey, pulled through, made it out of undergrad, and I decided to go to graduate school. And that's really where I learned what I consider like a core thing that I do in my life, which is work hard, play hard. Right. I mean, maybe we call that work-life balance these days. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
But it's like, hey, it's cool and good to kick butt all day and work hard at your job or your studies or whatever. But when you're done, go outside and have fun. Right. Go do something, go, work your body, and you work your mind all day. Go work your body. You know what I mean? And then go have some fun. Do some neat things. Sure. Right. So that was really the key while in grad school. And, like I said, my dad was a runner. He was marathoning. So I said, I want to try marathoning. So I ran my first marathon in 1991. Loved it. It was a lot of fun and neat.
Which was that?
That was the Marine Corps Marathon in Washington, D.C. Again, all my friends on the East Coast, if you need a first marathon, that's such an awesome marathon. Highly recommend it for anyone looking for a first road marathon. Just continued to run throughout graduate school. It really became, I realize it now because, maybe I'm older and more mature, but it was not just that work-life balance, having fun. It was therapy. You know what I mean? It was so many things in my life I have worked out while on a run. right? You know what I mean? So it was just, it just became such a cool part of my life, an important part of my life. So probably the pinnacle of the road marathoning and the racing and the fastest I've ever been was like 1996-ish time frame. You know, after that, 1997, I graduated. And this is where things get awesome in terms of, you know, where I live is I got the opportunity to come work in Seattle. And, you know, I had only been to the West Coast a few times, but, you know, the mountains were just like so amazing. And I remember when I came out here for the interview, I saw Mount Rainier for the first time. And I'm like, oh, yeah, this is where I want to be, you know. And to this,
what time of year did you come out here for that interview? I'm curious.
It was I got lucky. It was right before Thanksgiving.
Oh, okay.
It was November. So probably a rare sight to get to see the mountain. But I tell you, Wes, even to this day, like I'll stop and look at the mountain. You know, I just can't help it. You know?
Yeah, it's so glorious to see that. It's majestic.
Yeah, it is. And I share it so much because like my friends back east and my family back east, I'm like, you have no idea, right? How beautiful it really is. So I want to share that and encourage people to, you know, see that stuff, right? So yeah, I moved out here and that was January 98. And got married not long after and was doing a lot of like hiking, trying to get into mountain, all that stuff, enjoying the outdoors, running casually, nothing real big. And then we had our first child, which was great. I have two great daughters. I mean, they're awesome. And, you know, life voted. And, you know, my wife and I, we hunkered down and we took part in the greatest endurance sport there is, raising babies. You know, so I focused on that for a while, but, you know, the running itch came back. And as soon as we got a little breathing room with the kids and felt more comfortable, I was able to start running again and then picked marathoning back up, you know, but out here now, right? So checking out the scene out here. And
how much time passed between the last marathon you ran in 95, I think you said, to just picking it back up again?
Yeah, it was 97, and that was my last one. And then it was 2007, so 10 years.
Oh, okay.
There was running in there, but again, no marathoning, right?
Sure.
So yeah, I just kind of got back into it. And, you know, I had, to get this towards ultra marathoning, right? I had read a book. I don't know if you've read it. It's called I think it's called The Death Valley 300. It's by Richard Benyon.
Well, I haven't even heard of it before.
Yeah, it's so again, where I grew up, we were real close to Rodale Press, which publishes Runner's World. And my dad knew a couple of those folks from the road running club and everything. And a guy, Drew Benyo, his brother Richard, wrote that book. And it's about the Badwater 130. Well, now it's the Badwater 135, but back then it was 300 miles. It was up and back, and they still were able to summit Whitney.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Okay.
So it's a really cool book, especially because we kind of knew folks. And I'm like, wow, that's really interesting. So, you know, time keeps rolling on. And I'm like, man, I want to try this ultra thing. And I'm an engineer, so I'm very like measured. And I always like think stuff way too through. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I like to like sneak up on things, you know, like I'm going to just try a little bit more every time. So comfortable with marathon. There was a race out here called the Lake Young's Ultra that Van Fan used to put on, Pigtails. And they had a race distance that was 28.8 miles. So 3 times around a 9.6 mile loop. So I'm like,
just barely an ultra.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try this. And, you know, I learned you can't run this like a marathon, even though it wasn't that much further. It was like, ooh, I finally got into a place where like, I've never had an experience in a marathon where like my legs would stop working.
Yeah.
Got kind of that point in that race, and I'm like, ooh, this is interesting, right? So that was cool.
Was the terrain much different in that one then?
Yeah, you know,
than what you were accustomed to in terms of marathoning?
You know, it was all off-road, but it was dirt path. You know, it's very good footing, rolling hills, and, well, I'll tell you in a minute why I think things went south. So I did that, and that was awesome. And then I'm like, I have to do a real ultra. Like, I have to do a 50K. And my friends were saying, oh, you need to do Baker Lake. Baker Lake is a great first 50K. So I'm like,
yeah, that was my first 50K.
Yes, cool, right? So this would be 2010. Okay. So I go up there and wow, I was not ready for that. I don't really think I fully understood the concept of fueling. I didn't really have gear. The first time really getting into a bad like bonk and having to work through it and keep moving. Just, wow, so much learning, but it was eye-opening, right? So when I was saying before that I kind of had trouble with that Lake Young's Ultra, and then I was struggling at Baker Lake, right? The dirty secret I have is that I was training at about 25 miles a week,
Oh, okay.
which
Yeah, not a lot of time on feet.
no, not at all. Not, and I would never recommend that to anyone. I mean, I think certain people can do it, and certain people are amazing, but not me, apparently. So what was the natural conclusion there? Injury. Right. So January 2011, I ran a marathon down in Houston. I'm like, I need to probably stop and get this fixed, which precipitated in another break in marathoning. Right. So,
Yep.
so that was good. I mean, that was okay. And I worked on some things, got healthy, life kept rolling on. And then luckily for me, my daughter found cross country. Like, oh, yay. You know what I mean? Because as much as I love running, I love watching my kids do stuff that they love to do more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that was so much fun, and just brought the community back, being involved and around that so much. And I wanted to set a good example. So I'm out doing my workouts and she's doing hers and everything. And, it was just so cool and such a great time, and got back into running. And that really led to the most like sustained period of running since then.
Okay.
So just really started building more marathons, but also more 50Ks. Was just really focused on getting more comfortable with that distance, learning how to eat right, how to pace it correctly, really just focused on that stuff. And, we kind of eventually we get to COVID, of course. I was looking to do my first 50. COVID came, and I was like, oh, man. I remember I was looking to do a marathon around my birthday, which is March, and COVID came, and that race got canceled. I was like, bummer.
Right.
But you know what?
Derailed it.
We'll roll through it quickly, right? And we were signed up for Missoula in June, Missoula Marathon. That got canceled, right?
Yeah.
So I started running marathons out my front door during COVID. I'm just like, okay, if that's the way you're going to be COVID, I'm just going to go run marathon a month out my front door, and started doing that, which was really cool.
Did you have any support for those self-created marathons?
Nope. Just walked out the
Were
front
you
door.
just
And
carrying everything you needed for that run you carried with you?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, it was fun. It was something to do, and kept me
Sure.
busy, right? And we all needed something to keep us busy, right? So yeah, just have been really focusing since then on, I'm getting older, so I'm 56 now, which isn't, I don't think of it as old, but I guess it's older. And
Well, in the ultra space, that's not necessarily that old,
Right.
To be sure. You're probably like in the middle of the age bracket. There's people younger, but then also quite a few people quite a bit older too.
Exactly. And so, it's just really putting a focus on different aspects that I never had to think about when I was, 29 in running.
Right.
Now I really focus on flexibility, core strength, eating right, sleeping right,
Yep.
all that stuff. So,
All that stuff makes a big difference.
boy, yeah.
Now, you said you're an engineer, so you're analytical. You like to figure things out.
Mm-hmm.
Do you like to figure out your own training schedule and plan?
Yeah.
Are you not receiving any outside help in that way?
Yeah, I've always rolled my own and just, came up with things that work and then slowly tweak it.
Sure.
Definitely look at other programs that are out there, and like I can find snippets of it. I'm like, ooh, that's a good idea for a kind of week, and then I'll plug that into my plan and see if that works or not. Honestly, these days, I really try to be as flexible as I can. It's one of the things I appreciate about your series, Wes, is, you're just like, hey, sometimes I don't run when I'm supposed to run, or I can't run because I got my life is busy or something. So I definitely massage my plan to meet my life.
I think that's a smart thing to do. If we can't be too rigid in this because, well, life won't let us. But also, I don't think we serve even the end goal very well if we're just going to like set life completely aside because this is the only thing we're doing is training. That's I don't know. Maybe there's some running gains that can be made in that way, but I don't think overall you're achieving any sort of life gains. There's more to it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, unless we're professionals and it is our life to do that, I mean, that's cool. And it would be neat to try that. It just doesn't work for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I do know what you mean.
And thank goodness for social media. I can live vicariously through those who do.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you had, so you obviously dabbled in ultras, as you know, and before, how many 50Ks did you finish before the COVID lockdown?
Oh, before the COVID lockdown, maybe three. Maybe
Okay.
three. Yeah.
And that was of course after the first Baker Lake, where
Yep.
you didn't feel like you knew what you were doing.
Right.
And I also had a very similar story with that race. Did you find in the subsequent the 250Ks you did after that you were starting to learn a bit more about how to manage the distance?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
I
okay.
did. It was really, every one I learned something, right? And some of them kicked my butt, you know what I mean? But then I learned from that, right? And I got into one with more elevation and like, ooh, wow, that'll really get you out or take you out of whack. I definitely, one of the things I'm just always fascinated by is getting into a bad place and how you get yourself out of it, right? That to me is just, wow, that's a cool thing to me to be able to figure that out. And
Do you have a trick?
No, I don't. Well, one is, yeah. I mean, don't panic, right? Because I think in the old days, like I remember marathoning and everything being so focused on pace, and then you'd start slipping off a pace, and you just like start spiraling down into this isn't going to go well, blah blah blah.
Right.
Now it's like, okay, slow down. You have been here before. This, you know what you need to think about. Like, okay, are you hydrated? Did you not eat? Slow down. There's a crazy thought, right? Cool down, whatever. Yeah. Again, every bonk seems to be different, and the way I come out of it or not seems to be different, But I'm just, every time I learn, and that one thing that is really awesome about it is it really helps with confidence, right? Because part of it for me is like, I don't want to run scared. Like, ooh, what's going to happen when I bonk, right? Whereas if you get through it a couple times, then it's like, oh, okay, all right. Yeah, that might happen, but you don't have to be afraid of it. You're going to be okay. Mental game.
So as you started to make these plans for running your next big ultra, you made the comment that you wanted to run a 50 miler. So what was it that was, why was that the goal that you had set for yourself? What was magic about that number?
Well, so back when I was on, kind of one of my breaks, a friend of ours, she ran the White River 50. And I remember we went and watched her at the finish. And I was just so impressed, by what she did and how hard she worked. And she's, busy person and just so much in her life. And she did that. I was like so impressed. So that was one thing. Another thing was as a good friend and mentor of mine, when he turned 50, he was like, he's going to run 50 at 50. I missed it, by the way. but still, I was like, okay, I want to run 50 miles. Like that's something I really want to do. And then White River, because I love that area down around Mount Rainier. It's pretty close to my home. I live about an hour from there. Just the terrain is awesome. The views are awesome. Yeah, it was just so much about it. Like for some reason, that one stuck in my head as if I do one, that's the one I want to do.
So it sounds to me like there was the distance itself had an allure to you, but it was also this specific event. It was the White River 50 miler that really was what attracted you.
Yeah. I mean, I had seen several others that I thought were cool. The Y-East Howell had a 50 miler that looked cool. Oh man, the Rise 50. A friend of mine did that one, and I don't know if I did the 50K, and that one got me, so I don't know if I could have done the 50 miler, but yeah, again, I thought it was the next logical step in distance, and I had it in my head that, you're not a real ultramarathoner until you do a 50 miler.
Oh, okay.
Right? And I don't know why, but I just had that stuck in my head. So yeah, it kind of just came together, and I'd say like last Christmas, I committed. I was like, okay, you're going to put a plan together, and if you can stay healthy, here's a good year to do this. And then in January, just started, okay, I have a serious plan. I love to sprinkle races in throughout my training plan. It just kind of gives me like milestones and things to look forward to along the way. So just had some really fun things to do in races this spring. So that was awesome.
Which races did you do? I'm curious to know.
Yeah, so started off with the Run Forest Run 50K down there in Montesano. That was a great experience because it was like 42 and raining at the start, and just a mud, slog, snow, sleet, one of those that you earn that one, right? And you just get used to being kind of miserable for a long time. So that was great, and just great race overall, really pretty down there. Then turned around the next month, so that was February. March, I ran the Catalina Island Marathon, which is really cool. It was a great weekend for my wife and I. Never been to Catalina Island. Really fun race. Wow, just super cool way to see that island, So that was cool. Then let's see, April, ran the Boston Marathon. Okay. That was cool. Hadn't been there in 27 years. So it was neat to go back and do it again.
Yeah, I bet.
My wife and I love Boston. Such a fun town. Such a great weekend. Yeah, after that, what did I run after that? Oh, yeah. So after that, sneaking up on that 50 miler, I ran the Eldon Crest 38.
Oh, you were in Arizona.
Yeah, man. I was looking for you. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that was really cool. Wow, Flagstaff is so much fun. I was so bummed that we didn't get to run up over Eldon, because the plan was, run further than I've ever run, have a big climb at the end. You know what I'm saying? But still, what a great race. And I just had so much fun there, meeting people and being around that environment. So that was neat. That was really neat.
Yeah.
And then the Missoula Marathon in June. Mm-hmm. And after that, it was, okay, let's get real and sign up for White River.
Well, I like that you use races as those milestones along the way. They're also just a fun way to have a long run that somebody else is catering for you, so you don't have to worry about all the logistics and all that planning.
Right.
You told us that earlier that when you ran your first 50K, one of the problems that you created for yourself was only running 25 miles a week. So why don't you talk about how the train, obviously you had all these races and marathons sprinkled in along the way, but what else did you do differently with your training as you're getting ready for this 50 miler?
Yeah. So the biggest thing was, again, running fits with my schedule in life. And, the last couple of years, 4 days a week, I can comfortably fit in with my life. This year, I added in another day of running. So I went 4 to 5 days, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it was able to just creep my mileage up a little more consistency. You know what I mean? Just 3 days back to back of running. So that was one of the big things in terms of just time on feet, was increasing there. And then, just got really serious about my stretching, yoga, things like that to again, try to stay healthy. So
how about strength training? Did you incorporate that as well?
No, I think that's the missing link in my plan so far, Wes, is that I do a little bit here and there, but nothing serious. So that's what's next, is just sprinkling that in along with the other things. But yeah, that's definitely a hole in the plan.
I don't fault you for having that hole in your plan. I mean, I don't think it's obvious to a lot of people when they start out running that strength training could be a part of it, or maybe should be a part of it. Yeah. A lot, it's, what do they say? Like, running is so great because all you need is a pair of shoes, right? So why would you need to go to all the strength training, especially if you're not looking to bulk up or whatever? But it's certainly, I feel like I've only come around to having strength training be a part of my training just in the last couple of years. And really in this year, I really made it a part of my plan and asked my coach, please make sure we have this on the schedule, because if it's not on the schedule, I'm not going to do it. And it's such a great way to just help stave off injury. That, I think that's the strength in your core and in your legs, can help avoid help avoid an ankle roll, as something as simple as that. I think it really does help. But you kind of have to get to the point where maybe you've done the way you've done it, and all of a sudden we're like, wait, it's like, what's missing here? This thing called strength training that everyone's talking about. Maybe that's what I'm missing. Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. I think that maybe if you really have time and effort, you can also, like, cross training in the past, I think really helps as well. Yeah. So, I mean, ideally you could do it all, but yeah, I'm with you. I look forward to adding that in, and I know it'll help me. Yeah. So what were some of the mileages you're doing in your weeks? Yeah, in about the 18 weeks leading up to the race itself, I was averaging between right around 38 miles a week. You know what I mean? So runs during the week probably don't get much more than an hour or so just due to life, and then long runs on the weekend. Yeah.
Try to put together a little bit of back-to-back long runs, but where we live, we're just so fortunate to have, you can get some elevation and get some trails and that kind of time on feet. So it was really focused around that.
Yeah. Okay. Then, well, yeah. So let's start talking about about the race.
Yeah.
Bring us into the story of how you were feeling at the starting line and how it went.
Yeah. So, honestly, I built this thing up in my head like it was my Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Like this was it. This was going to be the big one.
I can feel it.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I was nervous. Like I said, we live just over an hour away, and I was like, man, I guess I could. I go to a lot of these races myself, and you drive yourself home afterwards. But it seemed like such an unknown. Like, wow, like I don't know how I'm going to feel after this. Is it going to be good, bad, or indifferent? And luckily, my wife is so supportive, right? She offered to drive me down at the start and everything. And so she was there, and that was great, to just help with the nerves, someone to talk to. It's amazing. Like I've been running for it'll be almost 40 years, and I still get nervous at the start line. It was weird, right? But I was.
Sure.
So yeah, leading up, I was just had some nerves, but just focused on, you get all your gear together. I'd only ever used drop bags before at Eldencrest. I just thought maybe I'd try. So, just planning all that out, which again, for the engineer brain is awesome. Like, wow, we need some spreadsheets. Let's go,
How many drop bags did you need to plan for this 50 miler?
So I planned on two. So halfway and then the last aid station. So,
Oh, okay. And is it 3 miles from the last station to the finish or something
it's like
that?
7.
Oh, it's 7. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Maybe the
six or
course is
7.
different than when I ran it.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, yeah. So yeah, I like the idea of carrying my stuff because, what if I get hung up and end up walking? I'll be out there longer, could need more. Things could go really well, and then you have it anyway. So, just was erring on the side of, I got it with me if I need it. It wasn't that bad, so went with that plan.
You also mentioned the gear that you're putting together. What was your pack situation? What were you using what was your nutrition and hydration plan? I'm curious, sort of those details that you had going in.
Yeah. So, well, let's see. Let's start with gear, right? Mm-hmm. So kind of head to toe, I'm a big fan of OR stuff, my OR hat, sunglasses, some Gooders. I like the OR Echo t-shirts and Echo tank tops. I can't think of the word, singlet. There we go.
Singlet.
Super, super comfy. I've really honed in on the Salomon packs. So for this race, because there was great support the whole way, I just went with the 5-liter, the small one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then a favorite pair of Brooks running shorts. And then I really like the Ultra Mont Blancs shoes. Okay. They've worked well. I'm on my 3rd pair. I'm very concerned they don't make them anymore. Oh no! I may have to find a new pair and do something, right?
Every runner's nightmare when they have to find a whole new pair of shoes.
I know, right? Well, I think they still make a carbon plate one, but I'm like, I don't know that I'm really worthy of a carbon plate shoe, to tell you the truth. And then in Gingy socks, like, man, those things are the best.
They sure are.
And and then some Squirrel's nut butter, in appropriate places, and yeah, I was good to go.
And then how about, do you have chest bottle with your 5-liter pack? Did you have bottles?
Yeah, I like the chest bottles. I used to use a reservoir, but man, it's just logistically difficult for me to fill them at aid stations and everything. Yep. So I like the bottles. So 2 bottles, one always with water. And then one, I really like the Gnarly Fuel 2.0. So I use that for liquid calories and electrolytes. And then my fueling plan was roughly 100 to 100 and whatever it is, 60 calories every 30 minutes. So I use the Huma gels. Mm-hmm. So take one of those, or I use the Stinger Chews, which are like 160 calories for a bag of them. So, about every half hour, do that, supplemented with the Fuel 2.0. Okay. Yep. And then the plan was to eat something solid at the aid stations, or just when I was feeling like I got to throw something solid down there. I love those Stinger waffles. Those go down super easy for me and stay down. So that's great. So that was the plan. I didn't do great with solids at the aid stations. It was just like a couple of potato chips or a quarter PBJ or maybe some pretzels, some salt. You know what I mean? But I was really happy with how I just, I got on my plan, stayed on my plan. And don't think I got really off plan at all the whole day.
How did you stay on your plan? I mean, I know I would not be able to do something every 30 minutes because I would forget.
Yeah.
So did you have something to help remind you?
Yeah. So I guess the last piece of gear I forgot was my Coros watch, right?
Okay.
I'm a big fan of Coros. Really just works for me. And they have the nutrition alarm.
Okay.
So I just set that and it went off every 30 minutes and I hit it. I will say that, I obviously tweak things. Like if I know I'm coming up to an aid station or something, like I'll just hang on an extra 5-10 minutes just to get there and do it there rather than try to do it while I'm running, So was flexible that way. But in general, I stayed on my plan. So I was happy about that.
Yeah, that's a success if you can stay on your plan, because I think a lot of us know that the plans always fall apart as soon as the race starts.
Yeah. Oh, no. And many a times I've done that. I've done that for sure.
Good for you. But you were poles, no poles, it sounds like you were talking from your description.
Yeah, I did. So I put my poles in my drop bag at halfway. Okay. So I should say, I've run all pieces of the course in training ahead of time, never the whole thing, but so I knew what I was getting myself into. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Which was helpful for me. So I figured I wouldn't need it on the first, it was like 28 miles or something. And I don't really use them that much, Wes. So I was a little concerned, like, the old adage, do not try something new on race day. Right.
That's right.
But I'm like, one of the things I just really bugs me is when I get tired and I don't pick up my feet and I start tripping and falling, and it just irritates me to no end. Plus it's like, I don't want to get hurt, obviously. So it just, So I thought, have your poles with you in the second half. If things go south and you need some extra stability, not bad to have them there. Right. But, I ended up using them and I love them. Like, wow, I'm gonna use these more often. Who knew?
Which poles do you have?
I have the Black Diamond. They're just an aluminum pole. I think they're aluminum. Yeah, just a run of the mill. I think they're a running pole, but I'm not sure. They're not like super high end. They're not, but just run of the mill. Yeah.
Black Diamond poles are certainly very popular. A lot of people run with that brand.
Yeah. So that was good. It really helped me on the second climb.
Yeah. Were there any surprises? Anything that didn't go to plan? I mean, obviously your nutrition and fueling sounds like that was pretty well, and the poles worked out for you.
Yeah.
But what were some of the surprises you ran into?
Yeah. So, probably from when you said you ran at West, right?
I did. I know in 2017. It was my first 50.
Gotcha. So that there's been some changes to the course, and they had some last minute changes for us. But one thing is the first aid station was a little earlier now. I think it was at 10 miles. And it was still with some climbing left, that first climb left. And I remember coming out of the aid station and continuing on and up, and my left hip flexor was like just a little bit like aggravated or just not good. So I'm like, that's a little early for stuff to start feeling a little weird, right? Mm-hmm. But luckily, just was able to keep going and power on. So that I didn't see coming, and that was a bit of a surprise.
Did it go away?
Yeah, other things, it just became less of a thing, or either that or I just ignored it. Right. Other things started getting, you just get tired, you get sore, you get whatever. So it ended up not being a factor.
Right. Okay.
Until recovery, but that's another story. So the other thing was, I feel I personally did well on the first half. I was kind of on the high side of my predictions of where I would be time wise, but boy, coming out of the start, you come back to the start finish around halfway, and then heading out of there, I was like, wow, I'm having a hard time getting going again. You know what I mean? It was getting warmer. Not bad, though. Certainly not bad, but it was just getting warmer. And then, man, that second climb, up to Suntop was definitely getting warmer. I think it was a touch steeper, but I just was, I don't know if running out of gas is the right thing, but I was just fatigued. Fatigued, and it was a harder climb than the first climbs for sure. And that's when I got the poles out, and it really helped me. It felt like it helped me get up the hills, like using your upper body a little bit. So that was cool. I was like, wow, this is like really helping. I'm digging this, despite the fact that it was Sufferfest. So
nice to have a little silver lining going on while you're suffering.
Yeah, right. So the good news is that it went faster than I thought. like getting up to Sun Top. And, mentally, once I got to Sun Top, I was like, okay, now you're probably going to do this. Like you might actually finish this thing, right?
Do you remember what the mileage is at Sun Top?
Yeah. What is it? 438.
Okay.
Is that right? Maybe somewhere around 30 something, right?
Okay.
And then it's that long dirt road down to the last aid station. And that was interesting because, I was like, oh man, this is just going to be like, it's like 5 or 6 miles of quad pounding, oof. And I remember getting down there and I looked at my watch at one point and I had like an 8-minute mile. I'm like, oh my gosh.
What are you doing?
Yeah. Why? But actually it was like a good thing. I'm like, oh, this doesn't feel that bad. Huh. Go figure. Right. And especially because I had fallen behind a little bit of my, where I was getting myself into the mental position of, okay, you know what? You slowed down a lot on those climbs, getting up to Sun Top. Get yourself ready. You might not make your goal. Just it's cool. Relax. Just get it done. Mm-hmm. So had a pretty uneventful trip all the way down to the last aid station, Skookum Flats. Great thing is my wife and my dog were there, so that was super cool to see them. I think the picture I sent you is from there. And, I came into that aid station, like pretty fired up, you know what I mean? Got my stuff, got everything ready to go, and got a kiss from my wife and just headed on down the trail, right? The funny thing is like, I don't know about you, I don't usually run with music. Like, I really haven't ever, except the last maybe few years. I'm like on the really long stuff, I take it along just in case I need like a mental break or a boost. So I put my Shocks headphones in my drop bag, right? For the last one, I thought, okay, that last 6-7 miles, it's real like rolly, rocky, Rudy and stuff. And so I'm like, I'm going to take my poles, I'm going to take my music, and I'm going to power through that last bit and finish this thing, right? So, I'm so excited in the last aid station and ready to go. I zip out of the aid station. I get like 200 meters down there and I'm like, oh, I forgot my headphones. And I'm like, yeah, don't go back, dude. Just keep going, power through. You know what I mean? Mental exercise here, right? So I kept going. I was kind of dreading that last section, Wes. I don't know if you remember it, but it's along the river. It's all in the trees, but it's, it just, to me, it seemed like it was going to be trip hazard central and being tired and whatever, but it was nice. It was cooler in the woods, such a nice trail and everything that, I wasn't moving incredibly fast, but I did okay, and I remembered some of the little bridges before you get back to the airstrip at the start finish. And when I finally got to that one, I'm like, oh man, I'm going to finish this thing. So got back to the start finish. And the funny thing so I get there and I finish and I'm like, where's my wife? And just at that time, my dog decided it needed to go to the bathroom. So my wife had taken it on a walk right when I finished. Oh my gosh. So timing is everything, right?
Yeah, right.
But it was great. I got to shake James Varner's hand, the race director, and have a nice little chat with him. And so it was cool.
What was your finish time?
It was 11:39.
Okay, that is a very respectable first 50-miler time. Well, that's a really good job.
It is darn near right in the mid pack, like almost like right in the mid pack, man. So it's not mid pack elite, but it's mid pack, right?
Well, good for you.
No, I was.
How did that satisfy you? I mean, as a former marathoner who was all about pace at one time, how did you feel about that as your finish time?
The finish time I was happy with. I had, I don't know about you, but I usually set like an A goal, a B goal, a C goal for the races. I was really wanted to run under 12 hours. You know what I mean? As my first one, I just really felt like that was important to me. So I was really happy about that. And, it wasn't, I think I could have gone a little bit faster and done a little better. But overall, I was stoked, especially because at Sun Top, I had myself convinced that I was not going to finish under 12 hours.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
So was it just because you had such a slow climb up to that aid station? Yeah. That's why you thought you were going to miss that time goal? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, and I don't really look at my watch. You know what I mean? I don't, I just run by feel. And so I didn't have data and facts to support my thought that I wouldn't make it. I just felt slow. And I was like, oh boy, how's this going to go?
At what point did it become clear to you that you could finish under 12 hours?
When I crossed the finish line.
So because when you
I
were at
didn't
the
even
last
look.
aid station, you didn't check. You
Nope.
didn't check as you were getting close. Oh,
No, there was because there was someone at the aid station on Suntop, and they're like, "Oh, you're doing good. You know what? You could probably walk it in, and you'll finish before dark. You'll be fine." And I was like, "Oh no, like I'm in danger of finishing before dark." So that's what was
yeah.
like snowballing in my brain, but it worked out just fine, and I was happy with the time.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on finishing the race that you had built up, in your mind that you had worked, wanted to do for so long.
Mm-hmm.
Was there, as you think back to the journey, is there anything you would have done differently in your training to get ready for the race? Now that you know how the race went and how the race could have gone differently, what might you have changed in the training part?
Yeah, just more. I would definitely, I think, I mean, and I would have put it on my weekends because that's when I can kind of get it in more. But I think I would have had just a few more longer training runs. And I think I really would have put back-to-backs, like back-to-back tough ones. So that's an area for improvement next time.
Yeah, the back-to-backs are so valuable for teaching your legs to keep moving when they're tired.
Mm-hmm.
It's also good mental training too, because sometimes if you have a hard Saturday, to go back on the Sunday and go back out again, it's like, I don't want to.
Right.
Let alone the fact that it hurts when you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, then maybe next time you might incorporate some strength training. It sounds like too.
Yep. Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just overall improvement. Yeah.
Did you so you had a little bit of the hip flexor pain early on, but you kind of forgot about it, or it went away, or maybe it didn't go away, but it wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
Were there any other physical issues along the way, or when you got to the finish line, were there any significant pains?
No, I was like super happy that, I got my feet dialed in. I didn't have no hot spots, no blisters, nothing.
Oh, that's great.
I was super happy about that. It was really just the hip flexor that I was like, that's gonna be a little tight. And actually, as my recovery that's what's been limiting me.
Yeah, so let's talk about the recovery. What have you done, and how is it going?
Yeah. So I had heard from someone that an idea for recovery is in these ultra marathons is, for every 10 miles of racing, take a day off.
Mm-hmm. I've heard that before.
So I thought, I'll give that a try. Never tried that before. So I did. Took 5 days off of running. And, one thing I've definitely learned over the years is, for me, motion is lotion, man. So just keep moving. So like day after the race, did a bunch of walking, and then just every day thereafter, just a lot of walking, stretching, and some easy slow flow yoga, things like that. Just really been focused on that. Tried to come back running, after 5 days, tried a little bit of running, and man, would make it a mile or two, and the hip flexor would just, light up. So took it real easy. Slowly getting back into running now, but I also just made an appointment to go see my PT.
Okay.
Really just more proactive. Like I don't think it's anything like major, but I just wanted to get the right stretches, the right strengthening exercises to just, let's not let this thing get out of hand.
Yeah, I think that's smart. They can also give you really targeted exercises,
Yeah.
Specifically for that. So
Right.
that way, in addition to whatever other training you might be getting back into your schedule, that focused targeting healing will definitely serve you well. That was smart.
Yeah, definitely.
How about, have you had any kind of emotional journey afterwards as you've reflected back upon what you've been able to accomplish?
Yeah, Wes, that's such an interesting question. Like I said, I built this thing up in my head like it was the Super Bowl, and when I finished, I felt nothing. Like I felt like, well, that was doable. You know what I mean? But the cool part, I think, is that like almost instantly, my brain went to, I think I can do 100. Like someday, not today, right? But I think like someday, I could finish 100. I think I could do that, and that has been motivating me just ever since. Like, I don't know, man. I really think I could do it, And it's a good thing that my hip flexor is a little sore because, honestly, I probably would have signed up for 100K, like next month or something, right? And just been all over it. But having this little injury or whatever is good. I'm being measured. I'm just slowly getting back into it. planning some, adventures for the rest of the year if I can get good. And then, yeah, I don't know, Wes. I just really think I could do something a little longer,
Yeah, well, there's no doubt in my mind that you can. I guess the question I had is, because you had been so focused on this Super Bowl in your mind of the 50 miles, had you ever considered before doing 100 miles or doing these big distances?
After Eldon Crest, met just some super cool people in Flagstaff, and two of them had finished the 125, the Sedona Canyons 125, and two had finished the 250. Okay. And they were so kind and nice, and I was by myself, so they kind of took me in, and I had dinner with them and stuff. And just talking with them was just so inspiring, and yeah, so I really was thinking about, could I do this? And I read a lot, I watch social media about people doing hundreds and you doing 200s and 200 plus. And, it always seemed, again, like it was just over the horizon. Like before I ran 50 miles, like I had no idea, like it could be the end of the world. It could just, everything could be different, whatever. Now I see it's doable. So now that 100-mile distance, I'm like, well, maybe that's doable too, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know, but that's my big takeaway from this race is it just gave me confidence that I didn't have prior to July 29th.
Yeah, I have chills. That's beautiful to hear you say that. The thing that is so great about ultramarathons is that they show you what's already in you. You had to do so much work to get to the point where you could run a 50-miler, and running the 50-miler didn't make you strong. It just proved, and it was evidence that you were that way already. So now your brain is able to be like, oh, I see what now I am capable of.
Yeah, I definitely feel that way. I'm excited for the future.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Man. What if you had the opportunity to talk to somebody who's getting into running, and by the way, you have that opportunity because you're in this recording right now.
Thank you.
What would you want to share with somebody who's getting started in ultra running now? What would you like to motivate them with?
Yeah, let it be fun. Let it be fun. You know what I mean? I love my job. I have a great job, but running is way better than sitting in front of a computer or in a WebEx meeting or something. So enjoy it. You know what I mean? Training's tough, but it's worth it. Put the time in, because you'll feel so much better race day knowing that in your back pocket, hey, I was out there at 4 a.m. on that rainy Thursday morning or something, and I put the work in, and now it's a beautiful July day in the mountains. So this is worth it, So I don't know if that's answering your question, Wes, but that's the way I think about it is, try to have, realize the fun in it. Part of this whole thing for me is, getting to go to new places and see new things and see, trail running is amazing to me because, with my life, I can't go backpacking for 4 days into some backcountry and camp and see it, which is cool and amazing. I would love to do that, but I can go run that in a day. And I can see what my life doesn't give me time to see, right? So, do that, get out there and see those things. It's so much fun, so much fun.
Trail running it really opens up the world, doesn't it? It allows us to go to places that time prevents us from getting to, or other things get in the way of it. It's so door opening. Door opening doesn't seem like the right metaphor, but yeah, it gives us access to so much stuff and so many experiences.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. For sure.
Well, it's been quite a journey for you, and I know that this is just the beginning, because now that you've seen that you're so capable, there's a lot ahead, and I look forward to seeing what you come up with on your schedule and learning about how you do on all those things. So thanks so much for coming on Ultra Origins and sharing your story, Chris. It was really great to get to meet you, and hopefully I'll see you out there on the trails.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Wes. Really appreciate the conversation and really appreciate the content you put out there. It's motivating and inspiring, so thank you.
Thank you for coming on and sharing your story, Chris. If you have recently finished your first ultra, or if you've recently completed a major new distance and would like to share your story here on Ultra Origins, go to onwardendurance.com and click on Ultra Origins at the top of the page. Thanks a lot for watching. I look forward to sharing more Ultra Origins stories with you.